Thank you so much for choosing Milt's Coaching Corner. We are here today in order to talk about a very extensive subject that I want to speak on, and it's developing self-awareness through mindfulness practices. It's something that I believe that would help my audience due to the fact of there's so many things out there, 7 steps, 20 steps, 11 steps, however many steps that you can think of that give us the actualization of feeling that we can connect with ourselves through those steps. Now, in some cases, I will say that it does help people. I can't sit up here and act like it doesn't, right? I can't act like somehow they don't work. But I will say this, with all the information out there, I will say that it is totally tough in order to break down such a complex being such as us human beings down to 3 or 4 or 20 simple steps. That's very hard to do, right? Because as human beings, one of the things that we have that work for us specifically is the fact that we're able to think beyond the intelligence that we give ourselves credit for, right? I know a lot of people would say that to say that, we only use a certain amount of our brains. Correct. We only use a certain amount of our brain, right? And with that being said, how do we get more in tune or have more mindfulness, right, about ourselves? So let's dive into it. I don't have 6, 7, 8 steps, 20 steps. I just got a couple of things I want to talk about. Now, one of the biggest things I did in order to get in tune with myself more so is that I really would take every opportunity and moment of silence that I had, right? Or I would make opportunities for silence and I just wouldn't say anything. I would listen. And sometimes it resulted in me falling asleep, to be honest. But that was because of where I was, right? And sometimes where I am. That was because of where I was going at the moment. So when I would lay down or when I would just sit and I would just be quiet, whether I be in my car or whatever, I would listen. But a lot of times those listenings came after prayer. And because of the fact I prayed and I would listen, it would give me the opportunity to ask or talk about the very things that were on my mind, right? And then listen to the answer. The answer is also always bigger than the question, right? Because the answer is from a plane that I cannot understand on a scientific level. I just know for a fact it is a spiritual level that the answer comes from. When that answer comes from that spiritual plane, I will say this, it is beyond comprehension. It is beyond feeling or mentality or whatever. It's beyond all of that. And the reason it's beyond that is because it comes from me actually taking time out to be mindful. The reason I'm giving you a personal story is so you can have somebody to relate to be honest. It's nothing I'm selling to you or pushing. I just want you to have somebody to relate to who's actually done these things, right? And I've created subjects from this based upon things that I've actually done, things that I've learned about, read about. But I want to give you practical advice and say that I've done this a lot while I've been working. I work at worked in a sales position where I did a lot of travel. And that meant a lot of downtime as far as driving or as far as waiting on a client, anything of that nature. So I had the time. Some of us may not have that, but you may work at a factory. I don't know. But there is a time in everybody's day, maybe it's right before bed, where things are quiet. And the first few times you want to try to sit still. If you know that you're going to fall asleep, do like I did, sit up. Right? Like actually sit up or stand up or go stand outside. I've done that in order to get quiet. Now, what will happen to a lot of us is we won't know whether that little voice is speaking to us or not. I will tell you it's very hard to make the distinction at first, but over time, over practice, what you have to do is elevate your patience and sit with yourself for just a second and just find a more practical space to be quiet and just listen. Now, for me, what happened was it turned into like I was listening, and then the things that I was hearing was so beyond the moment that I couldn't, take hold to it in the moment, because in the moment of me listening, it felt as if like what I was hearing was a bunch of baloney. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It felt like a bunch of just crap. But then I realized something, that I have to sit in this place because there's a little boy inside of me. There's a young teen somewhere inside of me that missed some development with himself because he spent his years answering to others. He spent his years answering to the call of a coach, teachers, any and everybody. So becoming more self-aware meant that I had to drop any and every person that had a right to my happiness, a right to my peace, a right to any of that. I had to drop those people. And the reason I had to drop them is due to the fact that I wanted to be heard. Meaning I wanted to be heard from within myself. I no longer wanted to hear the opinions of other folks. I no longer wanted to hear what other people had to say about me. I just wanted to hear what I had to honestly say. And I will be straight with you. A lot of stuff I had to say about myself was very tough. It was very tough to listen to. And it was very tough to listen to because that voice is truth, man. That voice will not lie to you. And when that voice didn't lie to me, it made me realize that I am not anywhere near to the person that I show other people. I'm not. Or I wasn't. Thank God for growth. But I wasn't anywhere near the person that I showed other people. Right? I believe that the intellect is still there. I believe that I'm still a creative gentleman, or all these things, right? The good stuff that people like. But I also was very self-centered. I also was very selfish. Very not caring about things that I probably should care about. Very self-absorbed. Very dishonest. Dishonest in the sense that I lied about who I was to people, not because I wanted to, somehow gain favor. Well, in some cases, yeah, right, with women, yeah, I'll be straight with you on that. But I was dishonest because I technically was a loner. I technically was the type of man who wanted to just kind of sit in his own thoughts and do his own thing and write and create and, maybe link up with people every now and again. But I found myself in clubs. I found myself drinking. I found myself doing and being everything I wasn't, right? Because like I said, I spent my entire life trying to meet some type of standard, right, that other people set upon me. I said I dealt with my entire life the factors of being a deposit to other people's standards. I never withdrew from myself in the sense of I never got knowledge from myself until I got older. And I never sat down to think that I have a purpose beyond this earth until I began to actually listen to that when it came to people who were much older than me telling me, son, you're better than where you are. Son, you need to do this. And son, you need to be this way. And when I say son, I don't just mean my parent, right? I say parent because my father's been dead now since I was 8 years old. But my mom, for instance, would be one to constantly let me know that I needed to do the right thing, that I don't need to go through the motions. And then God will send his angels to tell me the same things. People who I never even saw or knew my entire life, they would come to me and tell me all the things that I needed to be doing that was better than where I was. And what I found is that sitting with myself, listening to myself, gave me the opportunity to be able to not only speak truth, but hear truth without feeling the need, right, to circumvent that through the eyeball or the eyeglass of another person or the eyeglass of another realm or something that would basically justify it or unjustify it. Now, if I was having ill thoughts or vile thoughts or something like that, then that meant that my moral compass would then take over. But it also meant that I was struggling with something beyond that vile thought. So I had to bring that into captivity. So one of the mindfulness practices that you have to do is to get quiet and sit down with yourself and listen to who is speaking back to you, right? Because you will have two different voices. I'm not going to lie. You're going to have a good and evil. The whole thing about the devil on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder, or the demon on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder is true, because you will have two different voices. Now, what I will also say to back this up, and this is going on to the next point, is to make sure that you are taking in things into your mind that are helping you go further beyond where you currently are. Meaning, don't just be like, I'm gonna just learn a new subject and Yeah, you can get smarter, right? But I really believe intelligence comes down to a person who is very much so self-aware. So it's one thing to get smart. Being smart means that you can read, you can comprehend something and regurgitate it back out by understanding, right? Because of the fact you've comprehended it, you're smart enough to then regurgitate said information back out to whoever, right? But intelligence is something that's much deeper. Intelligence comes from deep within, true self-awareness. Okay. So what I started to do was I use YouTube actually, and I would use Audible and different things like that in order to make my life easier by listening to books, watching videos, not just motivating videos, but things that I was challenged with, right? How do I stop myself from becoming angry? Why do I suffer from sexual frustration? Whatever, right? Why am I depressed? It's just so many things that you could find out here. Why do I have, my podcast, for instance, but that's just a little shameless plug. Nevertheless, it's so many things that you could listen to out here that could help you beyond where you currently are, right? Now, this is basically meaning that you have to be okay unplugging yourself from the everyday rigmarole of work and all of these things that give you some type of purpose, and realize that that is what you have to do in order to survive versus who and what you are, right? So you have to take time away, step into what you're meant to do, go into plugging into your mind, right? Things that you need to know about yourself, right? Get selfish for a bit. Plug into your mind things that you need to know about yourself, things that you struggle with, things that you don't necessarily understand, things that you fight with. Go into that and stop going through every day just trying to make ends meet, right? And the reason we do that is because we don't know how to just look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you suck. Now, a lot of us can look in the outside, or we can say, based upon comparative social media posts or something like that, we can say that we suck. Man, it takes a lot to look yourself in the eye and talk about that, right? Because once you get to that point of looking yourself in the eye in the mirror and saying that, you then get to a point where you start telling yourself the truth and you realize that you feel so much better because you have broken away from the rigmaroles. You are doing what you need to do still, but you are so in tune, so much more self-aware that the things that you do no longer have a push or pull on you. You're just handling it to get to who and what you are. You're just doing what you have to do in order to get to who and what you are, right? You don't fake the funk, right? You're just doing that. And you have to give yourself the freedom to break away from doctrine that you've been peddled. You have to, because if you do not do that, all you're going to do is harm your growth. So in sitting with myself in silence, this is after prayer, in listening to things, piling more things in my mind about myself, I also had to be aware of how I was breathing. Now, a lot of us breathe without thinking, and that is a gift that we have. We don't have to think about the breath that comes in and out of our body. As I'm talking to you right now, there's breath going in and out of my body. You can hear me as I pause from speaking. I take a breath, I say what I need to say, and it's almost like the body knows how much air you need in order to be able to say the next couple of sentences that you need. Or somehow you say the sentences that you need, and then the body knows exactly what it needs to do to get that breath back, right? To regulate yourself so you don't get lightheaded and all of this kind of stuff, right? So the same thing goes when you become more self-aware. You have to sit and listen to how you breathe. It puts you into a state of calm. And in that state of calm, you then are able to, instead of making knee-jerk reactions, instead of operating in a space of fear, anxiety, circumvention through other people's opinions, you then become one with self, and you operate and act how you would act in that situation, not based upon what you've been through, how would that person would act, but how you would totally act. It probably will surprise you that there's a lot of us out here when situations are happening to us, right, or around us, that we wouldn't react. We honestly would take, right? We would evaluate. We would slow it down. We would think. We would now not act on it. And we would go about it in such a way that the other person who's doing said action or watching us would realize that, wow, this person is not reacting, because they are so freaking, they like to call it stoic, but they are so in tune, right? You're so freaking in tune with yourself to the point where anything around you does not have, right, the boundary to cross with you. Any and everything around you no longer has the power to do anything to you, right? It only happens for you. When you sit and you get calm and you learn how to regulate your breathing. And here's another tip, right? Regulating your breathing, being aware of your breath, breathing in, breathing in, and breathing out. Doing that 1,000,000 times over helps you to do that again without thinking. So no matter the situation, because this is what happens, and I'm telling you, these all go together now. This is what happens when you are doing that. The very voice that you were hearing the first time when you start to sit in silence, and now you're becoming aware of your breath, you're putting things in your mind that are positive, you start to realize there's a shift happening within yourself. You begin to not only have the things that are in your mind become more positive, become better based upon the fact of what you have been putting into your brain, but you also start to realize that the things that you are thinking about are no longer harnessed to the past. You are now in the now. You are no longer stuck to what has been happening, but you are now in the now, because you are now trying to move past the past. You're trying to move past what has happened, and you're trying to address everything that's been going on with you. Instead of sitting and wallowing in it, you're becoming better. And now you can regulate your breath. You're breathing in, you're breathing out. That voice is speaking to you. You're concentrating on breathing in and breathing out. You're listening to the things that are good for you. You're breathing in and you're breathing out. And now you're reaching a place of freedom. This place, that right there has helped me immensely. I speak to people every day, me remaining calm. What I do in every situation, not just what's done to me, but what I do, right? How I operate in those situations helps me immensely, because the people will react. Most people are reactive, but when you are a person who is aware that the person is reacting to you, they're reacting to some type of stimuli that's within them, right? And you are calm and you are not doing anything that would harm you. And you are not doing anything that would, that you wouldn't normally do, right? You're taking in, you're operating in a space that this is happening for you, not to you. And boom, next thing you know, that person begins to mimic you, because people naturally want to be in a place of peace. At this point, y'all, I'm going to take a little break, come right back, get a drink of water. It's just going to be a short intermission, and I'll be right back with you. Thank you.
All raindrops have one job, is to work their way back home. You say, what do you mean? I said, well, when they hit that water, they got to work their way back. If they hit the land and the dirt, they got to work their back to the river, to the stream, to the ocean. We humans, when we're born, we have one thing to do. God don't give a damn about a PhD like your daddy got. Or a PhD like your mama got. Or how much money you got in the bank. Or if you're black, you white. You rich, you poor, you can read, you can't read. God has one law. When you come here, the only thing you have to do is work your way back home. I brought you through that little door called your mama's womb. But all you got to do is work your way. And I have one restriction. You better be as clean when you get back as you was when I put you here. You're not born a racist or a bigot or a thief or a murderer. You pick that up on the way. Now y'all play all the games you want. Get hung up in all the churches you want. Be full of hatred. Let somebody reduce you below your dignity and don't know you violating the universal God. Let a bunch of thugs control your food. A bunch of hoodlums control your education. They got engineered animals that you put on your table every day, and America's the only country don't have to put on the label that they've been cloned and you think you free.
Thank y'all so much for that, for allowing me that little intermission. I appreciate it. Hopefully we are on a path to the correct thing. So I want to jump back into it now. Being mindful, as we stated, we got to be mindful of our surroundings, what we place into our brain. We have to be mindful of what we are listening to. We have to place in our bodies and in our minds the things, or to place into our minds the things that we want to fix. And then we have to sit with ourselves and be mindful of our breathing, slowing ourselves down, if you will. Now, this is the most important one. What we eat. What we eat. Now, what we're talking about here is diet in the physical, as far as food. And we also are discussing diet in the mental, diet in the spiritual, diet for our soul. What's more important is the diet for our soul. Just as Dick Gregory once said, as the rain comes down to earth, it comes down to make its way back home. Same as humans, as we come down to earth, we do everything down here to make our way back home. God so loves you that he created you to come down to live on his earth to make it back to him. We are not meant to be regulated, pushed and pulled by any other human being, because God created us. So because we are not regulated and be pushed and pulled by any human being besides what God has placed in us and who God wanted us to be, it behooves us to not only be aware of our surroundings, but also be aware of what we put into our body. Now, as you know, with the amount of people that are here in the United States, I think 335 million, something like that. Some probably a little over that. There's a lot of food that has to go around, right? All the people and not enough farmers. So because of that, this has to be better suited for you. It's best that you eat things that are good for you, not what you deem good based upon just the taste of it, but based upon your actual health, right? Hopefully from the things that we talk about here, right? You'll say, oh, well, I looked up how to become, better at eating meals. Now, I will say there's a bunch of junk content out there that's 7 meals that are going to help you lose weight. Man, listen, man, I'm going to keep this very simple. A lot of water. What's a lot of water? If you need me to tell you a lot of water, drink until you are satiated, right? Listen to your body. Hopefully this is teaching you something, because what has been taught to us is to box us in, to keep us from being self-aware, right? Listen to the body that you live within, man. Listen to your body. Your body's going to tell you when you need to sleep, when you need to eat, and when you need water, right? Drink water, quench your thirst. If you don't like water, put a lemon in it, put some type of flavor in it. No, I'm not a dietitian or nothing. Maybe I should have one on here. But nevertheless, the more holistic approach is the best way to circumvent all of this, right? Back to being self-aware, eating healthy fruits, vegetables overall, right, is a way to help your brain get clear so you can digest information, so you can digest who and what you are, so you can actually listen to yourself. Because if you're sitting there scarfing down cheeseburgers and then you go and get quiet but your belly hurt, or you full, or you're lacking in energy or clarity, then you are pretty much on a hamster wheel, which most of us are, which is why we try to listen to things like this to help us get off said hamster wheel. I will say this. I am not the step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guy, although in my life it seems that I follow that, because I am very meticulous in the way that I do things and the way that I am as a person. I believe this podcast, though, what I want it to be is more genuine and more thoughts in the moment versus I wrote down notes and I want to follow it. I gotta right? I think what makes the best movies is when the actors or actresses take the script that's given to them and make it their own, right? They tell the story. The story is still told, but that character is brought to life by the actor and actress, right? Because that actor and actress is doing what comes natural to them. Some people really have a gift for acting, right? For acting. They have a gift. And those gifts can be bastardized when things turn for profit. The food industry has been bastardized because things have turned for profit. Your taste buds have been bastardized because things have been turned for profit. Sure, salt tastes great. Salt is good. Yeah, of course. You can add to any meal, right? It truly can. But salt is not something I would say that we need to take in over and over and over and over again, right? Because then we know for a fact it does lead to high blood pressure. It does lead to us harming ourselves in a dietary manner. We know sugar is the same way. But it's fed to us over and over because it has, think about this. If I wanted to harm you and keep you from being self-aware, I would do everything possible to make that happen. I would do everything possible to make that happen because I know if you become more self-aware, you won't give me the money to keep my industries going. You won't give me the money to stay sick. You won't. You will not give me the money to stay sick. You won't allow me into your home. You won't allow me to tell you what to watch, allow me to tell you what to digest, allow me to tell you any of this. So if I keep you hooked, right, if I understand what these different properties do to the human body, because most of us out here are trusting, right? We trust the medical professionals. We trust the television. We trust these people. We give our trust away, except for to each other. It's so funny. The people I interact with on a day in and day out basis, they will trust McDonald's. They'll put a McDonald's hamburger into their mouth, but they won't trust me to tell them the truth. And I'm a person just like them, right? I have no interest in taking anything from the people, but they then will fight me. Man, that is a total different podcast or a total different day, but they will fight me. And I think this happens because most people have been duped into believing that they must not be trusting of other human beings. So the human being must be disguised by a brand in order for the trust to become a thing, right? We are told to trust brands, not other people. Brands are people, y'all. Brands are people. Without people, the brand would just be a brand. Well, I know some people, well, we got AI. Without a person, what is AI? Everything derives from us. Everything derives from us. Everything derives from us. So when you're out here and you're listening to what somebody tells you to eat, or when you're listening to how people tell you to eat, be careful that they are not just being a brand, throwing the brand in front of you versus the actual intellect and the knowledge. Because a person who's going to tell you what to eat is also going to help you in the sense of personalizing what you need to eat. Some people can't eat a lot of fruit because of the sugar value, what it does to their body. This goes into listening to your body, becoming more mindful, becoming more self-aware, giving yourself the opportunity to listen to yourself. I'm telling you guys. Okay, so prime example, when I sat with myself, right? Alcohol came up. You drink too much. You drink too much. I kept saying that. You drink too much. You drink way too much. Now in my head, I'm like, I'm having a glass of wine or, maybe a little shot here and there. Ain't never hurt nobody. You drink too much, Milt. You drink too much. Yeah, maybe not him, but you, Milt. You drink way too much. So I had to put it down, man. I still drink here and there. Yeah, that's true. But I had to slow it way down because my body told me, you drink too much. You don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, Milt. You eat out of stress, Milt. You eat a lot of sweets, Milt. You're putting on weight because of the fact you don't take care of yourself, Milt. You're fat because you don't do this, Milt. When I tell you the conversations that have happened between, man, in those silent times have been life-changing. Now, practically speaking, eating apples, oranges, vegetables, and all that stuff, man, mentally it sounds boring. Real talk. Because, man, I could do some stuff with some chicken. Man, I could do some stuff with this and that. It sounds boring. But in reality, it's not. What it is that I allowed myself to be talked or to be duped into thinking that I cannot be exciting. I can't be creative in whatever capacity, because I had to think about this. And it's dawned on me one day. Right? It dawned on me. There's people out there who don't have what I have in other countries. I'm thinking about other countries. Even in the United States, they don't have what I have in order to be able to buy certain things or do certain things, right? There's certain people out there who live off the land and their meals taste amazing. I've had some vegan dishes. I'm like, I don't know, man, I might go vegan if it's going to taste like this all the time. Then I have some that taste like cardboard. Okay. But I also can have a pescatarian lifestyle. I taste something and it tastes great, and same thing, cardboard. And I've had that on every side of the dietary spectrum. The thing I had to get in touch with is I need to eat more fruits and vegetables because of how it honestly makes me feel. Meat does not make me feel the greatest. It does not make me feel the best. It does not bring out my best self. I'm not living my best life when I'm chomping down burgers and da. What makes me feel better is when I eat those fruits and vegetables, when I drink plenty of water. Now, I had to also learn how to regulate my water because I pee like a racehorse. And that's real. So in all, what I'm trying to tell you guys is this: listening to yourself, taking the time out to really stop, like cut away. Let's slow this down. Take yourself away. There's a principle named away from. I don't remember everything about it. I just remember reading it, which is part of my journey, right? Taking myself away from. Pulling myself away from the constant go forward and go backward each day. Pulling myself away from the things that I think make me a good human. Pulling myself away from work. Pulling myself away from my parents. Pulling myself away from myself. Pulling myself away from everything. Dying, essentially. Dying out. Drying myself out. Allowing myself to get back to state zero. And then I began to listen to myself. And once I began to listen to the voice that is within me, once I began to listen to God speaking to me, the Holy Spirit was speaking to me. Once I began to listen, that's when I changed. Not based upon everything I say, but based upon what I began to do from what I was listening to. Your body's waiting on you to listen to it so it can do for you what it is meant to do. Your mind is waiting for you to listen to it so you can do what you are meant to do. God is waiting on you to listen to him so you can do what you are meant to do. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you.